Welcome to another chapter of Hands-On with Fujifilm GFX ETERNA 55. So the Fujifilm GFX ETERNA 55 camera has a native lens mount called the G mount. The G mount allows you to use beautiful Fujinon GF lenses like this 80mm 1.7 or this 55mm 1.7. or any of the other more than 15 GF optics that are available, which you can see from our website, including this very lovely 32 to 90mm t3.5 power zoom lens. So you can, of course, do manual focus with any of these lenses, and in professional cinema, that's largely what you are going to do. However, sometimes in run-and-gun situations, you might want to use autofocus, and the autofocus system on the camera is very capable and has lots of options that we're going to explore. On the front of the camera here, near the left side, near the record button, is a small rotary selector labeled MF-AF. So in the autofocus mode, now if you enter the focus menu item, the first thing on there is going to be AF mode. So the one labeled multi means the camera is going to track and lock on to whatever is closest to the camera. So you do not choose an area. The camera will select the area based on the closest object to the camera. In the tracking mode, you can select on the screen using the control stick here at the top or by way of touchscreen the object on the picture that you actually want the camera to lock onto and stay with. And as you pan and tilt, or as that object moves across the screen, the focus will stay locked on to that. Third one is labeled area, and this is where you choose the part of the screen that you want to remain fixed, and the focus will only be on that particular area. Now, with area mode, you can choose the area that you want by either entering the area menu item, and then you can move the box around with the control stick here at the top, and then using the rotary knob, you can make that area larger and smaller and press into select. Or again, you'll be able to choose that area on the touch screen. After you've made those choices, you can choose the speed with which the autofocus system responds in continuous autofocus. There's the tracking sensitivity and the AF speed. AF speed is the speed at which it moves the motors to respond to object changes. So if somebody leans in quickly and leans back quickly and you want it to make sure it stays with that, you want to choose a faster speed. If you want a more delicate cinematic type of a focus ramp, then you would choose a slower speed. Another important setting here in the menu is something called the subject detection setting. If you want face detection enabled, it lives here underneath the subject detection. So once you turn that on, now you can select the face, or you can choose animal, bird, car, plane, whichever one of those you want. When you're in manual focus mode, there's an item here called Focus Check. Now, Focus Check can be very, very useful to help you get clear focus before you start to record. So there are two settings for Focus Check, a low and a high. What this does is it magnifies the image on the LCD as soon as you turn the focus ring. You just need to touch it a little bit. Now the high obviously magnifies more than the low does. So if you select that, and then once you turn the focus ring, it zooms in. Now you don't have to worry it being zoomed in. As soon as you hit record, the camera jumps back out to full screen view. If you choose not to use a Fujifilm GF lens, you could use Fujifilm's included PL lens mount adapter or a third-party lens mount adapter for something like LPL or any kind of old retro vintage lens that you might want to put on there. And when you do that, there are some useful options in the menu as well for that. So if you go into the recording setting, and under recording, there is something called mount adapter setting. and you have 6 choices under there. So this allows you to create a registration for a particular adapter setting with a particular focal length. So if I hit edit, I can go into this and I can give it a name. I can call it lens 1 or something else. And again, this could be touchscreen. So I can say lens 1 and I just made up a number here. Then I'm going to say done, and it's going to remember that name. I can now tell it what focal length this lens is supposed to be. And then there are some interesting correction settings that you can enable to help you get better image quality out of your third-party lenses. One of these is called distortion correction. So I can turn that on, and this gives you settings for barrel and pincushion distortion. Now, they are presets of weak, medium, and strong, and the way you have to do this is by eye. You need to put your lens up and you have to put a grid in front of it, and then visually you would select these 3 different options to correct the lens to some extent. It can't do really large, gross distortion corrections, but it can do fine amounts, and you can dial that visually to match whatever lens problem you may have. There's one called color shading correction, and this gives you the option to dial in a color offset to the 4 different corners of the image. This then could be very useful if you're using some older glass that may have problems with the coatings on the glass and you're getting unusual color shadings. And the third one is called peripheral illumination correction. Now this will not fix a lens that does not cover the sensor fully to the point where it creates a hard vignette. But if you have a lens that just falls off a little bit in the corners when you're trying to do, say, the open gate mode in 4:3, and you're seeing just a little bit of fall off, you can make it darker or lighter as needed. I thank you for joining me. I'll see you for the next episode.